What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a film that was released this year that I've been very excited to see. And I wanted to see it when it was initially released, but life just gets busy sometimes. I can't always jump on and watch everything in the first week. But ever since I heard about this at the Cannes Film Festival and just how much buzz has been circulating around this movie, I've been really looking forward to checking it out. And I finally got a chance to watch it, and I'm looking forward to telling you about it today. And the film I'm going to be discussing is Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall is directed by Justine Triet. Sandra, Samuel, and their visually impaired son Daniel have been living in a remote mountain location for the past year. When Samuel is found dead outside the house, an investigation for death and suspicious circumstances is launched. Amidst the uncertainty, Sandra is indicted. Was it suicide or homicide? A year later, Daniel attends his mother's trial, a veritable dissection of his parents' relationship. So, I heard a lot of buzz about this movie from the Cannes Film Festival. I was very excited to check this out, and this is hands down one of my favorite movies of the year, without question. This is a masterclass in what filmmaking should be. This movie is 2.5 hours. It never feels like it wastes a single second on scenes that don't attribute to the overall payoff of the film. Every scene is consistently growing characters, building tension, just really creating this anxiety-inducing, thoughtful viewing experience that I very much enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to breaking the film down for you today. So, as the plot description states, our lead character in this film is Sandra, played by Sandra Hüller. She lives in this remote French village with her husband Samuel and their visually impaired son Daniel. And at the beginning of the movie, we're just jumped into this scene where Sandra is doing an interview with this woman because Sandra is an author. The woman has come to interview her about her book, and she's trying to talk about it while her husband is upstairs working and is blasting music as loud as he possibly can, which, funny enough, he's blasting the instrumental version of the song PIMP, which plays throughout the film, and it was pretty hilarious that it kept showing up. But he's blaring the song, they're trying to have this conversation, and you can tell that she's getting relatively frustrated because he's doing it on purpose and he's playing it on a loop. And at the same time, we see her son Daniel get their adorable dog Snoop, who is a very important character throughout the film, and he goes on a walk outside, and he goes and leaves on this walk. Eventually the woman says, "Hey, I'm just gonna leave, we can have this conversation another time, it's clearly too loud in here." And she says okay, lets the woman go outside, and then we're with Daniel's character as he's on this walk. And when Daniel comes back from the walk, his father is laying outside of the house dead, there's blood everywhere. Then the scene cuts away. Then we get a bunch of scenes where police officers show up, they're questioning Sandra, they're asking her about her relationship with her husband, asking her about what she was doing at that time period, they're questioning Daniel about what he saw. And the first part of the film is really all of this questioning from the police department, and is Sandra going to have to go to trial for this because she was the only person in the house when her husband died. And from the looks of it, he was working upstairs, he was fixing up this attic because they're trying to turn their house into a B&B to make some extra money because their family has financial troubles. And what it looks like to us as the viewer is that he fell out of the attic window, hit this shed, and died because his head impacted with the shed. What the police come back with is that there's a chance that it was blunt force trauma to the head and that he was thrown over the side of the balcony. So they asked Sandra about what she was doing. She said she came upstairs in her room, the two of them had a brief conversation, and she put earplugs in, worked for a little bit, then went to take a nap. One of her earplugs fell out and she heard her son scream and ran outside and found her husband dead. So eventually it turns into she is indicted and brought to court, and the entire back half of the film is this really intense court case questioning every decision that she made. Could she have possibly murdered her husband? And we get this deep, intimate exploration of this couple's relationship, and I was just absolutely blown away with this movie. Just everything about it was absolutely outstanding. First off, the performances in this movie. Sandra Hüller's character, the lead that plays Sandra, is absolutely phenomenal. It's probably one of my favorite performances in a movie all year. She is so believable. Her dialogue delivery is incredible. She is a German actress, and in the film she actually references the fact that she's German and she met her husband, and her husband is from France, and she moves to France, and so throughout the film she's speaking English, she's speaking French. We get a lot of dialogue shifts throughout the film, and she just transitions so smoothly between the languages. She just has such a commanding presence on screen that it is impossible not to be immersed whenever she is delivering some form of dialogue. I was completely enamored with her performance and just absolutely stunned by how brilliant it was. The young actor that plays Daniel also was fantastic. I've talked on my YouTube channel before about how child actors can be relatively hit or miss in films. He was incredible. There's also a lot of talk about the dog in this movie, and the dog, surprisingly, gives an incredible performance for a dog, and it actually has to give a performance, and I don't want to go into detail why, but it's not just like camera pointed at the dog. There is a specific scene in particular that the dog plays a very huge role, and the performance from the animal is astounding. It's really just how they got this animal to do these things is incredibly impressive. And just from the top down, there's so many incredible performers in this that really make it an engaging and immersive experience. What I really like about this movie is that it's very intimate in looking into this couple's relationship, but what's so fascinating is the idea that this couple's relationship is being put on display because someone died, and like how the opposing party who is trying to convince an audience that Sandra committed this murder is like only willing to perceive things from one side of the argument, and in reality that's not how relationships work. There's things from both sides, and there's all these really incredible conversations about how in relationships you can develop ideas in your head for how things are supposed to go, and you can perceive situations very specifically and say things about your relationships to other people, even if that's not how you internalize the thoughts of your relationship. And it's so complex and detailed, but the way that the dialogue is written kind of takes us on this journey thinking about what it would be like if all of that was put on display and people weren't really looking at your side of the story. And I thought that was really fascinating. There's a scene in particular where the husband's therapist is being interviewed, and I thought it was really fascinating because when a person goes into therapy, you're only really getting one side of the story, and that person could go in and completely and totally lie about their situation. And I thought it was interesting that the lawyer who was trying to put Sandra away for this murder that he thinks she committed is so willing to only listen to the one side of the story and take all of it for face value. And it's just really fascinating because relationships are so complex, and I think the way all of that is handled is so incredible, and it's very thought-provoking. Also, seeing a child have to sit in a courtroom and experience all this stuff about his parents that, you know, like at the beginning he acknowledges knowing that they've had fights before and they've gotten in some altercations, but he mostly just leaves the room. He gets to hear instances of them screaming at each other, getting more violent with one another, and is really having to see a side of his mother and father that most kids don't have to see at that age. And that was really fascinating as well, and to kind of see his reaction to it. And I think the cinematography really accompanies that well. There's so many brilliant shots in this movie of like behind his shoulder looking directly at his mom. Really, the camera is so intentionally placed. We're reviewing characters in specific situations to kind of understand what they're going through mentally and how this situation is impacting them. And I think that all adds together to create the really immersive experience. And it's just a fantastic movie through and through. Like I said, all the performances in this are really great. The shift from like the initial story starting off when the actual death happens to the courtroom drama is really well transitioned. And I think the movie works so well as a whole, just moving you from point A to point B and really sticking with this family and making it feel very realistic if this were to happen to someone. It doesn't feel like overblown in any way. It feels very realistic. It feels like an experience that could happen to a person, and I think that's what made it such an incredible viewing experience. And I'm already excited to watch this movie again. It's definitely going to be in the running for my favorite film of the year. I don't know where it stacks up yet. Definitely in my top 3 favorite films of the year. Right now, when I'm thinking about the movies I've watched this year, it would fall right in that line, and I'll be really interested to see where it lands when my end of the year list comes up. So have you seen Anatomy of a Fall? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastic. I have zero qualms with it. I thought it was so well shot, well acted, well paced. Everything about it was amazing, and I can't wait to watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.